Coming up, vaccines in the Valley. The latest from Sanford and Essentia on children getting the newly approved low-dose shot. Will Minneapolis voters defund the police? Plus, how police are cracking down on speeders in South Fargo. Valley News Live at 10 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 10.
Good evening, everyone. Children as young as 5 right here in the Valley may be able to get their COVID vaccine this week. Sanford and Essentia both say they have children's doses on hand. The CDC gave final approval for the child-sized doses just this evening. Experts say the shots could help lessen the burden of the virus on kids, even beyond preventing severe illness and death. Michael George has our top story.
Today's a monumental day in the course of this pandemic.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky has given the go-ahead for Pfizer's pediatric COVID-19 vaccine in children ages 5 to 11. An advisory panel voted late Tuesday to recommend use of the low-dose shot.
The clinical trial demonstrated that the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is safe, immunogenic, and efficacious in children 5 through 11 years of age.
More than 67,000 American children under age 17 have been hospitalized for COVID infections since August of 2020. While the CDC says the most severe COVID outcomes are rare, there have been 94 deaths in kids 5 to 11.
The risk is too high and too devastating to our children, and far higher than for many other diseases for which we vaccinate children.
Some parents say access to a pediatric vaccine will lift a heavy burden.
It'll make life that much easier to be able to take the kids places, to not feel so worried about, do we have a mask, do we not have a mask, can we be around these friends and their kids.
A recent survey shows only 27% of parents say they'll vaccinate their kids right away. A third say they'll wait and see how it goes.
I recognize that parents are nervous, but this is not the time to be complacent.
Some parents are concerned about the rare risk for myocarditis or heart inflammation.
It's a very important thing to recognize that the very low risk of myocarditis with vaccination pales in comparison to the very high risk for severe heart disease related to COVID and MIS-C.
Pfizer already began shipping millions of doses to help pediatricians and health professionals prepare to get shots in arms. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Now, some on last week's FDA panel wanted to give first access to high-risk children. That caveat was not included in today's decision. Tomorrow, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will join state health leaders to discuss the state's plan to roll out the children's vaccine. Today, Governor Walz introduced new incentives for his Kids Deserve a Shot campaign. He says all fully vaccinated 12 to 17-year-olds can now enter for a chance to meet a Minnesota Vikings player, throw out a first pitch at a Twins game, win tickets and prize packs from the Minnesota Wild, Timberwolves, or Lynx, or win concert and zoo tickets. The governor says additional experiences may be announced in the coming weeks. No word yet on if younger children will now be included in that campaign. New tonight at 10, the polls in Minnesota are closed and the voters have spoken. Minneapolis residents have voted against a proposed amendment that would have removed the city's police department from the city charter and replaced it with the Department of Public Safety. With 945 precincts reporting, 57% of voters were against the amendment. Last year, protests and civil unrest followed the murder of George Floyd by former officer Derek Chauvin. 9 members of the Minneapolis City Council stood on a stage 10 days after that incident to support defunding the police. Hutch joins us now with a first look at your forecast. Hutch?
Stacy, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Well, it was a cool day, and for some areas we started out in the teens up near Walhalla and out in that Wadena area as well. Low temperatures today. Well, actually, Fargo this morning was 31. We're now at our cold temperature for the day in the 20s. So we're cooling off quickly thanks to clearing skies. Most of the snow showers now drifting out into the Arrowhead of Minnesota. Current temperatures, there's your low for the day, 27, 24 right now in the Jamestown area, and we are on our way down to another cold night. But we are going to have details on a warm up, and we're also going to talk a little bit about some chances for some stormy weather next week, including a chance for snow. I'll have those facts in a few moments.
All right. Thanks so much, Hutch. Fargo police are seeing increasing complaints about speeding and racing throughout the city. They say they've issued more than 70 citations within just a week. Valley News Team's Nashay Taylor spoke to residents in the most problematic areas and found out what city leaders are trying to do about it.
We hear all kinds of racing. I mean, it's pretty easy to tell what it is. Zipping up and down 52nd Avenue, can hear it on University.
Todd Libano lives a short distance from 52nd Avenue. He says the racing can be heard from early evening through late at night.
I'm not very happy about it. Don't necessarily feel safe. Should be doing something about kind of monitoring the high-speed traffic out here.
In the span of 1 week, Fargo police say they have issued more than 70 speeding violations in key areas of the city.
We had a number of complaints citywide about speeding and racing, and that
35 of those citations were issued between the 1200 and 1700 blocks of 10th Street North.
In my mind, this is serious enough that we need to attack it pretty hard. I'm worried that we're going to have somebody get killed.
64th Avenue South came in second with 11 citations in that same time frame. And one resident who lives in the neighborhood says she has noticed cars generally going way too fast in the area.
The speed limit's 25 and everyone is going at least 30, most of the time 40.
Fargo Police Chief David Zabalski says the department is working to control the issue of speeding and car racing in the city, but he says it may require taking a legislative approach.
It's called owner's responsibility. So in Wisconsin, they have an owner's responsibility law that covers a lot of traffic violations, because that's really what we need. We need to have the ability to hold someone accountable.
If the legislative effort would pass into law, the owners of the vehicles speeding could be charged and prosecuted, no matter who was behind the wheel. In Fargo, Nashay Taylor, Valley News Live.
Chief Zabolski says those potential tactics will be included as part of the department's 2022 planning. It's video you'll only see right here on Valley News Live. Take a look at this. That's the Cass County deputy whose blood alcohol content was nearly twice the legal limit while picking his kids up from daycare here before crashing into another car. Jacob Danielson was fired today. The video shows his car begin to creep up that driveway without him inside. That's because Danielson never put the vehicle in park with his two children there in the back seat. The internal investigation revealed it was actually our investigative reporting that led Cass County officials to dig deeper into Danielson's history. They uncovered that West Fargo officials failed to give them all the proper documents highlighting a laundry list of Danielson's concerning behavior when he worked as an officer for their department. Today, another area school district had to inform families of the tragic and untimely death of a student. West Fargo school officials say Cheyenne sophomore Caden Steiner has died. Last month, a 13-year-old Horizon middle schooler in Moorhead took his own life. A local psychiatrist says parents should continuously check on their kids.
Fargo Moorhead's a small community, so they'll probably have known of the person. Ask them how that's affecting them. Are they doing okay with it?
Caden's co-workers at Sky Zone want to gather together and support Caden's family during this time. Sky Zone will be holding a remembrance of Caden tomorrow from 6 to 8 p.m. in lieu of ticket sales. They say they're accepting memorials. They'll also provide food and drinks with Caden's family in attendance.
Someone's going to shoot up the school. VL High School.
Detroit Lakes Police had extra officers patrolling the high school this morning after receiving multiple alerts to a potential school shooter. The school was notified by police of the anonymous tips into our whistleblower hotline. Students also reported seeing a social media post to shoot up the school. Police and school officials say they have identified the person responsible and they plan to maintain a presence at some district buildings. A disturbing find at the Minneapolis airport. The United States Attorney's Office has charged a 20-year-old man from Mexico with trying to smuggle meth, several firearms, one of them homemade, and dozens of armor-piercing bullets onto a flight from Minneapolis to Phoenix. The criminal complaint states that Kevin Aguilar Moreno checked 2 pieces of luggage before getting onto a Delta flight at MSP on October 29th. The trial of Kyle Rittenhouse is underway in Wisconsin. The judge opened court today going over jury instructions for each count with the attorneys. Rittenhouse is charged with shooting and killing 2 men and injuring another during protests in Kenosha last year after the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Rittenhouse, who was 17 at the time, traveled from his home in Illinois to Wisconsin and at some point acquired a gun. His lawyers concede he did kill both men and hurt another, but say he was acting in self-defense. He has pleaded not guilty. COVID-19 vaccination rates are climbing. More than 58% of the total U.S. population is now fully vaccinated. That's about 192 million people. The number of people getting their first shot has increased for 4 consecutive days after hitting an all-time low on October 29th. And the National Institutes of Health announced today it will study the long-term effects of COVID-19 during pregnancy. Researchers say they want to better understand the risk of COVID in women who became infected while they were pregnant. Researchers will track as many as 1,500 women and their children for 4 years. In the children, they say they'll look for neurological and cardiovascular conditions. Still ahead, the polls are closed on the East Coast, and at least 2 governor's races have national implications. Those details later.
But next, we're going to talk about the weather. It's Winter Weather Awareness Week across North Dakota, and it's that time to remember we got to stay warm. Make sure you're packing your vehicles with warmth as well. We'll have details on some potential winter weather heading our way. But first, details on a warm-up. Your forecast.